Falls. Mrs. Riegel is the daughter of Joseph Stannard Baker, who, with Caleb Cushing, founded the Cushing Land Agency, which still exists under the name of the Baker Land and Title Company right here in St. Croix Falls. We've been having a good chat here about some of the past events, what it was like to live in St. Croix Falls in the past 75 or 80 years, Mrs. Riegel. And I thought maybe you could tell our listeners this afternoon what it was like to live back here.
Well, we didn't have any paved streets, and we didn't even have telephone service in our homes all over as we have now. Our park hadn't started at that in the early days, which is now rather a famous interstate park.
You remember the founding of Interstate Park?
I remember just briefly, it was in about 1911. I think my brother, Harry Lee Baker, went to Madison to promote the founding of the park. And I believe it is the first state park in Wisconsin. That was in 1911.
So your family's been in the center of some historically important events here at St. Croix Falls. I bet you remember when the first automobiles came into town.
Oh, Laura, yes. The neighbor lived across the street. He had an old, I don't know what kind of a car it was, but it was antique, and he was always puttering with it. He never seemed to be working to suit him. And my father used to call it Tom's kick wagon.
Kick wagon. You kick it and made it go? We were talking a little earlier, and you were describing how people manage to get their fresh dairy products. Wisconsin's famous for its dairy products today. How do people do it in St. Croix Falls?
Oh, everybody had a cow. If they wanted milk, they had to have a cow, or one or two. And somebody was supposed to herd the cows. You were supposed to milk the cows, open the gate, and turn the cow out in the street. And then somebody came along and herded the cows up north of town where it was open country and a lot of grazing was possible. And then they would bring them back in time to be milked at night.
And everybody would chip in and pay the cow herd weekly, or?
Yes.
And you had your barns right in town here, I suppose.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever make butter?
Yes. I've made butter a lot of times. In fact, I'll never forget churning. I even did it when my children were little, too. After I was married, and we lived out on Deer Lake. And I used to tell the boys that if they churned, I'd create some prize for them. It was also when we froze ice cream with an old-fashioned grinding ice cream freezer. I used to say the one that spends the most time chipping the ice and turning that has the first chance to lick the dasher when they take it out.
A real prize. You mentioned Deer Lake. I understand that since you've been very young, your family has been vacationing on Deer Lake here in the county.
We vacationed on Deer Lake every summer from the time I was, I imagine 9 or 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. You had a cottage on the north end of the lake somewhere, was it?
No, on the north side.
On the north side.
On the north, and then that burned down just a few years ago. But in the meantime, we used to take turns. The families, the relatives that lived here, take turns staying out there. And when it came turn for my family to have to move out after June, I didn't want to move out, so we built our own cottage on the other side of Hungerford Point. And that cottage still stands out there, and the family still uses it.
I think you were saying that your father had built a barn at the original cottage you used, and that still stands.
That barn is, and it's not bad shape. There's a man living out there now. I don't know who he is, but anyway, he's living in that barn. But
Must have been well built.
Yes, I think it was. The house, though, the old house disappeared. I mean, I don't know whether it was struck by lightning or how it caught fire, but anyway, it burned.
And I suppose you took a horse and buggy out to the...
Oh, yes. We drove horse and buggy all over the place. In fact, we used to walk out to the lake very often.
You walked out?
Walked out to our old cottage, yes. And that's 6 miles.
Today we've been spoiled, I think. 6 miles sounds like an immense journey.
Yes, it does.
You were saying there'd been another major change here in town in the sense of some springs which have disappeared or which have been harnessed.
Oh, they've been piped under the road on Main Street, on South Main Street, uh, down to the fish hatchery, and that feeds those big ponds down there where the fish breed.
Those aren't the natural springs then at that point. I mean, the springs were away from there for a ways.
Oh yes, they're up nearer the road, the Main Street. They weren't too far away.
I see. Your father, I think you said, was one of the first people, or perhaps the first man in town here to put running water in the house back at the turn of the century?
He had what he called a ram. It wasn't a big piece. It was only about a couple feet high, and he used to he installed that in one of those springs, and it pumped the water up the hill to the reservoir, which was 2 blocks away, and but it went through the basement of our house. And Father, he was deaf, but he could feel. He'd take hold of the pipe, and if he couldn't feel the throbbing of that ram, he'd know it had stopped. So he rushes the spare ram that he had down there and replaced it, and came back and repaired the other one.
You had to be pretty much your own mechanic back then.
Yes, he did.
St Croix Falls is famous for the Dells, of course, and the Interstate Park, which you've mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Of course, for, I guess, 4 or 5 or 6 decades, this area of Wisconsin was one of the great lumber-producing areas in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of logs were floated down the St. Croix River to build Chicago and points south and east of here. Do you have any stories you could tell us about that?
I remember when there was a log jam from just below the bridge to where the river turns at right angles almost, and that the logs piled up there so that they so high and so deep that they couldn't loosen them without pulling each log out one at a time. They used to say if they got there was one certain log they could get in that, then the jam would disappear. But they never could find that log. It was just piled up too high.
A sort of a key log or something. You pull it out and everything would break loose and it would float down. I suppose logs were backed up miles on the river.
Well, I can remember when they were backed up along quite a distance above where the dam stands now. But, of course, when they got down through the rapids and below the bridge there, they would get stuck in the narrowness of the river.
That's hard.
Yeah.
I imagine it was a hard spot in the river, and the loggers did not look forward to seeing St. Croix Falls.
I someplace have a picture of some of my sister and some of her girlfriends on those logs when they had that log jam. She went down there, had their picture taken on it. But I don't know where it is.
Could you tell us a little bit about the foundation of Baker Land and Title Company, or at least your father's role in the
well, he was Caleb Cushing's land agent. Caleb Cushing had been given land. As I guess many of the early days, they gave land, people that owned land in this area, they would give it instead of paying people. And he was given this land.
In payment for services,
yes,
to perform legal services and so forth. I see.
And then it was the Cushing Land Agency for years. And the town of Cushing, which is just north of here, is named after Caleb Cushing, too.
I see.
I don't know whether my brother had anything to do with naming it or not, but anyway. And they called the land agency, Cushing Land Agency, until not too many years ago, and they changed it to Baker Land Title Company.
I see.
Because now the Bakers don't have anything to do with it. It's
just a name now.
It's just a name, that's all.
But a historically important name.
Yes, I think so.
Certainly, Mrs. Riegel, we've enjoyed talking with you, and I'd like to thank you for your insights, your tales.
Too much.
No. Very interesting insights into what it was like here in St. Croix Falls a good many years ago.
Yes,
Thank you very much for WRXK Radio.